Good morning. I'm going to analyse a game from 1857. It's from the first American Chess Congress, which was won in spectacular style by Paul Morphy, of course. Before they had the American Chess Championship, they had 9 or 10 years the American Chess Congress. It was designed to be similar to the London rules, a series of matches in knockout format, with best of 3 to win and best of 5 in the final. But the draws didn't count, had to be replayed, so, and here is a game from the final against Louis Paulsen. A good chess master. The Paulsen variation in the Vienna, it's maybe familiar to you. The Paulsen variation in the Sicilian, both theoretically described by Paulsen and played by Paulsen. But here he comes up against the master, and really spectacular finish. So both come out with their king's pawn, pawn c4, pawn c5. The knight attacks the pawn, the knight defends the pawn. Yeah, knight to c3 lacks aggression, to say the least. But since they played 8 games in the final, Morphy won 5. There was 2 draws, and Paulsen managed to win 1. So I think we can forgive him for playing a bit timidly, a bit cautiously, if not timidly. So we have the 4 knights game, and when the bishop comes to b5, it's the Spanish variation. If it comes to c4, it would be the 4 knights Italian. So this is 4 knights Spanish. Yeah, the bishop develops to c4, and both players castle. So really nothing to complain about. No, perfect from both players, really. So white takes the pawn on e5, thinking that if he takes back with the knight, then he's got the centre fort trick. But this is Morphy. He doesn't move the knight for a second time. He develops a piece instead and plays to e8. And the knight is taken, and the pawn takes, threatening the bishop. Bishop comes to c4. Yeah, it's probably best to come to. Oh, I'm going to get rid of the analysis. Best to come to e2 and accept straight away that the pawn is going to be lost, because this gives him the chance to play b4 and attack the bishop again, and then the bishop has to go to b2. So if he goes to c3, well, Morphy can let him have that pawn and just use the poor position of that bishop to make his opponent's position weak. He may even be able to retreat the bishop to b6 and push the pawn to b5 to chase away the only defender of the knight. One of the 2 defenders of the pawn, the knight, if the bishop had been on e3, of course. So now he gets his pawn back, and Paulsen takes, and yeah, Morphy takes the knight. The bishop comes to f3 to attack the bishop and skewer the pawn. No worries though, he comes c6, and he's defended the pawn. And even although he's used 2 moves, it's like he's played a rook left to e6, and it must be able to sight itself into the queen side. No, a very good intention to play c3 in order to be able to play d4. But of course there's a huge problem with this, and Morphy pounces on that problem straight away. queen to d2 freezes the pawn where it was. So yeah, not a great idea. Now it's going to be very difficult for him to get development, and he's got another piece staring at his king side. So he plays b4, the bishop retreats to b6. The pawn comes to a4, maybe thinking he's going to play a5 and trap the bishop. So Morphy takes, and the queen comes out, and that's development. Bishop comes to d7 to defend the pawn, and rook comes to a2 to defend the d7 pawn so that the bishop can move to a3, for example. The rooks are doubled, of course, what else? And Paulsen offers a queen trade. Now, it says in the notes that at this point in time, Morphy thought for 12 minutes. Probably just making sure that his next plan worked in every instance, because Paulsen had proven himself to be a good player. It wasn't okay, I'm definitely going to win here. If I just play, I had to make sure that he was going to win if he played a sacrifice. And of course, queen takes f3. He has to take it, otherwise his king's ripped open for nothing. And so he plays the check. There's only one move, and then the bishop comes into action, developing to h3. He comes to d1. Had he come to g1, then rook takes check, king has to take, and then rook e1 would be mate. So he has to go to d1, and if I'm right, it was quicker just to play either, I think it might have been quicker to play bishop takes pawn or rook to g2 first. But he plays check and repeats the position, and then he plays bishop takes f2, and he's threatening bishop to g2 check and mate. So there's only one answer. The queen has to come back, and now, okay, it looks like they've almost got back to being level, but actually Morphy has an extra pawn. But he's not interested in that extra pawn. He's interested in winning the game. And the rook comes back to defend the last rank, so that when the bishop moves, he can't win by doing this. So rook comes to h6 to attack the h2 pawn, and the pawn comes to d4 so that it exposes an attack on the rook with the bishop. And last move, Morphy plays e3, and of course if Paulsen takes the bishop, then the h-rook takes, the king has to go to g1, and then the other rook comes to g2, and it's mate. Yeah, lovely little performance by Paul Morphy. You know, yeah, it's Morphy. We can see that. Queen takes f3. If we think about what Tartakover said, which we discussed the other day, that if the circumstances on the board are the same, that a usual mate and pattern exists, it isn't difficult to calculate that there is a win here. Yeah, it isn't difficult to calculate that there was a win by playing queen takes f3, but it was difficult enough that a genius like Paul Morphy had to take 12 minutes to ensure that it worked in all variations. I think that's actually longer than he used for the famous opera game. Yeah, okay, don't forget to like, share, subscribe and comment. Thanks. Bye.